Gaeilge, everybody. So it's Misha Cheryl, and it's Shisha Molly. Wait, that way. So tonight, our lesson is going to be slightly different. We went ahead and did lesson 1 and lesson 2 that focus on more on conversation, the Korah. But we wanted to, after you've been through 2 lessons and you've been able to have a lot of the vocabulary and getting to hear those conversations, so that you have something in your brain subconsciously to go ahead and put these sounds with, what we're going to do is go over pronunciation. So I didn't want to go over pronunciation first because I think people get hung up on it a little too much. Because you will gradually learn the proper pronunciations as you go. And you will have to lean on listening to audio for the most part, especially heavily in the beginning, to get a handle of those sounds. But a lot of people were saying that it was very hard for them to read the words on paper and know what they're going to sound like without hearing any audio. And that is a disconnect that happens anytime you learn another language, especially one that is introducing sounds that are not normally used in English. So one of the things that we're going to go over is how Irish uses the Roman alphabet, basically, except for the vowels with the fadas, the accent marks. That's what they call fada. So if you haven't heard that word before, anytime I say fada, fada means long. So fada is just making that vowel long. So it's a little accent mark up there. And it goes from the bottom left to the top right. So you'll see other accent marks in other languages that go the other way, like in Scottish. Scots Gaelic, they have the one that goes the other way. So, but Irish has the one that goes from the bottom left to the top right. So let's go ahead and take a look at the sheet. So if you're on the email list, I went ahead and linked the sheet. I haven't linked it below in the description of this video yet, but it will be on there for the replay, just in case anybody needs to access it quickly. But it was sent out in the email that went out last night. So if you have that email, you should be able to access it. But we're going to go over this handout. Now, I did not create the handout, full disclosure. It was created by a wonderful lady that adapted it from some textbooks, Irish textbooks that she had by another guy. So all of those names are going to be in the description to give them credit where credit is due. I'll also have a link to her video that explains her take on how she made the PDF and kind of it shows her going through it as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Okay, so here's the PDF handout. And the first thing it's going to start off with may seem very basic, but what you're going to have here is your vowels. So A, E, I, O, and U are the vowels in Irish. Now, you may not know this if you haven't looked at a set of the alphabet. Letters for Irish is Irish, depending on whether you're talking about loan words as well, but just regular Irish words without loan words, you're looking at about 16 letters. So that's significantly shorter than the English alphabet with 26 letters. So that alphabet, since it is so much shorter, introduces more sounds through combining letters and vowels and consonants and things in order to produce more sounds. And English does this too. We have a lot of sounds in English that from one word to another, it just changes. pronunciation in English is probably one of the most random of any language. So if you can master it in English, even though you may not remember mastering these changes as a young child, if your native language is English, you can do it with other languages. So I just don't want anybody to get discouraged because these sounds are different than English. So the vowels are A, E, I, O, and U. Consonants are all the other letters. Broad, now you're going to have to remember the distinction between broad vowels and slender vowels. So broad vowels, A, O, and U. Just think that your mouth gets wider or rounder, or the sound is more round or wide in your mouth. And then slender vowels are the I and the E. So when we go through this handout, she's really great. Let me scroll to the bottom and go ahead and give you her name. Oh, there it is. So this PDF was made by Karen Rushkin, and it was adapted from material created by Ray McManus. And she created it and updated on 2015. So it hasn't been that long, but it's a really great handout. So okay, so let's look at consonants. So this is what you're going to hear in the words, is that depending on what type of vowel these consonants are by or near, is going to flavor the sound that that consonant has. So here's an example here in this line up here where they say, you know, te has a broad T. You're pronouncing that T very hard, te. You can really hear the t there. So, but then you go to te. So te, or some people even say che. So it has a lighter T sound, and sometimes it can have even that ch, ch sound. So that's how the broad vowel and the slender vowel will change the letter T. The letter S changes dramatically. It goes from s, like in snake, to sh, like in shoe. So we can see that here. Here are some of the ones that you're going to run into more, or that will help you more to start off with. All of the consonants do change somewhat, but it's really hard to hear them at first. You have to hear those sounds over and over. But let's just look at some of the major ones. So when we're looking at S, so if S is near an A, O, or U, it's going to sound like the regular English S. But if an S is near an I or an E, it's going to sound like sh. So like in shoe or fish. So, and then we have T, which of course is hard T if it's near an A, O, or U, or it's a ch, almost like a chin or rich. So it has that ch sound. D becomes a j, so it has like a little bit of a J sound attached to it. So we have duh when it's hard D, when it's A, O, or U, and then it becomes j, like in gia, and quiju, and ledge, so like in Joe, vigil, ledge. So we do have this sound in English. It's just we use more letters to create this sound. The L, now I will be honest, the L is harder for me. I kind of memorize it as I memorize how to say the words, because I don't consciously remember to make the L's slender. But what it is it's adding kind of a y sound at the end of the L. So we have like the hard L, of course, would be l, you know, that full l sound. But then we have liam, biljog, and kal. And so it has that little bit of I to it. Think of the L's in million or will you. So it's that sliding into the Y sound, but you kind of memorize that as you memorize how to say the word. So again, if you need quick pronunciation to hear it rather than trying to figure these out, and you need to hear it, you can type any word into aber.tcd.ie. So it's ABAIR.tcd, which is Trinity College Dublin .ie. So if you go to that site, it's a synthesizer. So you type in the word as it's spelled, and you hit the button, and it will say that word for you in a male voice, female voice, or and in different dialects. So it will actually do it in different dialects. And there are pronunciations for words in Tanglon.ie, which is the online dictionary. So you have those in your resources, the links to those in your resources in previous emails, but I'll try to include them again, definitely for the email after this class. So go ahead and get on the email list if you haven't already. It's on our Gaeltacht Greenville Facebook page, the little sign up button, and that way you'll go ahead and get the email after this lesson. So you'll have that as well. And then the in is also like onion, so a minion. So it has that y attached to it. So it's very rare at the start of words in US English. It's usually in the middle somewhere. But just remember that the thing about these slender consonants is that it's making them softer. So if you keep that in mind, that the consonant is going to be softer and not be a hard consonant, then that can help you remember. Let's take a look at vowels. So there's a lot of vowel combinations in Irish, especially the triphthongs, which are the 3 vowels in a row, A, O, I, and things like that. So that one does get people, but it's the E sound. So AOI is the E sound, but let's go back to AE. So AE together is usually the A sound, like in te or lehente. So AO is usually, depending on your dialect, it's going to be an E or an A sound. So it can be like aid, or kale, or keel. So that CAOL, depending on your dialect, could be kale or keel. And either way, you're going to be understood. So people are going to know what you're saying. So you can just pick one and stick with it. AOI, like we said, is the E sound. So like in Saoirse, so AOI, Saoirse, E. The EA sound is the S sound. So like Ella or Allah and Das. So it's that A sound. So EA is A. EI is the sound like in meh. So Eshen, Kemek, things like that. And then we have EADH. Yeah.
Sure. Quick thing. I see in the comments, which unfortunately my Wi-Fi is down, so I'm not able to respond. But
okay.
A couple folks are saying they're having some sound issues as well.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Well, it doesn't seem to be happening for everybody, so it might be localized. I see there Lynn says her sound is going out. It might be localized, unfortunately. I don't know if you're watching on a phone, maybe try to
tune out, because I know mine is
oh, okay.
Right now. Okay, it's back.
Okay, yeah. She says it's back now. Okay. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and look, and you should be able to catch it on the replay though. If you're having trouble with the live stream sound, the replay will have all of the sound filled in, because I don't think I'm having any connection issues, so I think my audio is fine. But let's see. Okay, so the EADH, now these endings, those are the endings of words. That does seem to throw people because depending on your dialect, so EADH could be or u. The way I was taught, it's and in Munster, which Leah speaks the Munster dialect, they would actually turn that DH into a G sound. So a little G sound there. So egg. Egg would be on the end instead of eh. So it's either eh or egg in most cases. I think it's Ulster dialect that changes it to oo. So it just depends on your dialect. Just pick one and stick with it. You know, and the one you hear the most often may be the easiest one to stick with. So go ahead and do that. But you will be understood with any of those. But if you're flipping back and forth too much on different words, you know, you want to pick one pattern to stick with. That way you can be understood better. So EO is usually O as in no, the word no. So Owen, Kjol, Bio, those types of words. FAIDH. The F is left in there from Old Irish, I believe. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But the F is usually silent or turned into an H sound. So FAIDH would be he or E, depending on your dialect. And then FIDH is, again, E or he. So this is for the future tense of verbs, which we'll get to way on down the line. So that says Chucky, which is to, I can't remember. I think that's I will see, or I may be remembering wrong on that word. But feki is I will see. So you may have seen that in some of my emails where I say feki megaluhu, which is I'll see you soon, or feki megaluhishiv, I will see you soon. So feki is I will see, or feki me is I will see. And then E or IA becomes ia, so bia and pian. So it's like in the word deal, so dia, ia. The UA is ua, so like in fua. So isfulam is I hate it. Isfulam, I hate it. And then we have IO, OI, UI. It's usually going to be the I sound, like in fit. So Glendar or Glenna, Dinna. So Glenna, we went over when we have Glenna Ishka, like a glass of water. And Dinna is it means person. So Dinna means person. So let's talk about fadas real quick. Oh, and Molly, if we get any other questions, just let me know. So let's talk about fadas.
Because I can't answer, unfortunately, because it's not popping up on my YouTube.
Oh, thank you, Aaron.
So I'll just keep you posted. Yeah.
Thank you, Aaron. In the comments, he put Chucky will come. I was forgetting what that one was because I don't normally see it right off the bat in future tense. So thank you, Aaron. And then,
some people might have heard of Chucky our law. We won't go down that road because it has some political implications, but that's the day will come. So
we'll our day will come. Our day will come. Yeah. So there are slogans that use it. So you may have seen some of those. So let's see. Okay, the next big thing is fadas. So if you do any searching of Irish articles and things, you know that there's some contention around fadas, especially the fact that a lot of the technology and like search engines and databases, those types of things, were not allowing Irish people to use fadas like they should have. So there's a lot of contention around that, and for good reason, because it's part of the language. I mean, I'll give an example. So one of the things is it completely changes the meaning of a word. So a lot like in, say in Spanish, if any of you have taken Spanish and you have the word papa. So papa means potato. Papa means potato. But if you say papa with the accent on the last A, it becomes father. So papa versus papa. So are you going to call your dad a potato or not? So, it changes what the words mean. So fadas are very important. And you may be able to go ahead and look up the one where you have kaka and kaka. So that one's very important. One means like excrement, and the other means cake. So very big difference there. Very big difference. So fadas are important. So let's take a look at this one. So without the fada, you have for the letter A, you have like hata, mak. So it's the ah sound. But when you have a fada over it, it makes it longer. There's more stress on it, like ta. Ta is the present tense of the verb is. And then bod, which means boat. So that's it's a, aw. So think of it as a w sound, aw, with large in your mouth. And then the e sound, so kesht, de, so s sound, tel, get. But with the fada, it's ke, esht. So like the sound in bait and pay in English. Then you have the I sound. It changes from I, dinner, I. So that's the verb eat, and dinner, person, and I means in. And then with the fada, it changes to the sound of E, like tree, mean, he, Sheila, tree, Ishel. So those words. And then we have the O, ulk. So think of it this way. If it's not got a fada in it, you're not going to put a lot of stress on it. So an O without a lot of stress is just going to be so juk, ulk, tug, wonder. And then with the fada, it's ol, like in roll, toe, boher, road. Those types of words. Without the fada, U is just a so dove, fluch, good, pull. So it's a lesser stressed u sound. And then with the fada, it's tu, kupla. So tu, rude. It's a hard u sound. So hopefully that'll help. When you see fadas, know that that vowel is going to be stressed. So even if you have two vowels, say I had, like in the word Sean, so I had S, E, A fada, N, Sean. The E is there to make the S turn into the sh sound because it's a slender vowel. The A has the fada on it to make the vowel sound that you want. So Sean. So we want that aw sound there. So even when you see a combination of vowels, oftentimes the one with the fada there is going to have the most pronunciation on it. So that may help you in some ways. All right, so we are going to get into the other parts of this pronunciation guide because it's going to talk about Chez, vous and uru. I will touch on it a little bit, but please don't worry about it too much because I know we're not quite there yet. But I do want to touch a little bit on Chez, vous. Maybe I know we're not to uru, but Chez, vous is that lenition that I mentioned earlier when the H is added after certain consonants. So here's the listing for, so page 2 has the complete listing of what you're going to change. Now these are the only consonants here listed. You can see that some of them cannot take an H. Obviously you wouldn't have a double H. L isn't going to make any sense having an H after it. N and R. So none of those can take an H. So I just want you to know that those aren't going to get a Chez, vous. But depending on your dialect, some of these will be a little bit different. So B, when it's near a broad vowel, will be a most of the time I hear it as a V, especially in Munster, but other dialects, it can be a W sound. So as in awala, so awala is like at home, and so awala could be avala, depending on your dialect. So awala, avala. And then, of course, near a slender vowel, it's always a V sound, always a V sound. So as in Munster, and if Leah was here, she'd tell you that Munster tends to lean towards the slender pronunciations of things. So that's why the V is always present, even if it's in front of an A, O, or U for Munster. But in other dialects, it changes. So you have W sound in the broad and a V sound in the slender. So like ave, so to be. Levail, level. Shiv, shiv is you plural, like you all, or ye. Village, eve, those types of sounds. Now, C, when it gets a chez vous, it gets the H. When it's near a broad vowel, it's going to be that, that in your throat. But when it's in beside a slender vowel, it's going to be hy. So it's going to be like an HY sound. They don't have, they have unheished here, unheished, the question. Fiche means 20, and de. So it'll be a H. And if it has anything after that sound, it's going to be an HY, kind of slide into that. So like Kishtin, the kitchen, Kishtin becomes Hishtin. So hopefully that helps. D, when D is near a broad value and gets the H, when it's got a chez vous, it's run or gun. It's a kind of like a G in the back of your throat. There's no English equivalent to it. It's just, think of a G, but guttural in the back of the throat. It takes some practice. This one took some practice for me as well, to kind of get, and sometimes I still miss it. So, but when it's near a slender vowel, it becomes a Y sound. So, ergiera, agia. So, agia means God. You're calling out, calling out to God, because that's that vocative. So, agia, and ergiera, or eriera, depending on the dialect. So, so D becomes that guttural G in front of broad, or the slender Y sound over here. So F, F becomes silent in both cases. So when we're looking at F, just think it just makes it completely silent. You may hear some people use a breathy H there, but most of the time it's just completely silent. So you'll here's an example here, like Fela becomes Anela. So Anela, you would just completely skip over the F sound there. And vehicle becomes uneacle. So it just completely negates the F there in both cases. So G becomes a that guttural G in front of an AO or U. So grasseur, glor. So I can say it better in a flowing sentence, but it's that guttural G, and then it just like the D, it becomes that Y sound with a slender vowel. H and L don't get one. Let's take a look at M. So M is very much like B. So think of G and D have the same shifts when they get an H, and M and B have the same shifts when they get an H. So in front of a O or U, MH will sound like a W, or if you're in Munster, they slenderize that to a V all the time. So you have like awan. Awan means only or one. So awan. and if you're in Munster, avon. And then if it's slender, you're going to have the V sound always. So no matter the dialect. So mauvert. So my finger. I think that is what it means. My finger. Mauvert. Chez vous. So even in the word chez vous, the MH gets a V sound because it's all slender vowels on either side of it. And niv. So there's some examples there. N doesn't get one. P is just like English. P is just like English. So P becomes PH, we get an F sound. So that one's very easy to remember. So like safol, fos, unfail. So, and then S, we went over a little bit earlier. When it gets an H, not when it is beside a slender vowel, that's when it becomes the sh sound. But when you see an H after an S, rather than thinking the English sh, you need to think that it goes to an H completely. So a lot like the F gets completely blanked out, but the S turns to an H sound. So mohel over here, and then erheft. So there's some examples, and like Nola Kona, happy Christmas, Nola Kona. So that H makes the S into a pure H sound. T is the last one, and T becomes an H sound as well. So S and T are the same. So you got S and T that are the same, P that takes an H and turns into the PH sound that we have in English, the F sound. M and B are the same, and G and D are the same. So the only ones that you really have to know that are special are C and F, and that's it. The rest of them have pairs. So C, F, and P are kind of on their own, but P sounds just like the one in English. I will introduce you to urus, and this is just where it's softening that first vowel. That's all it's doing, is softening the first vowel. It happens in certain cases. We'll get to that later. And then here's your chart for what letter becomes what letter. So if you see an M in front of a B, you're going to pronounce the M sound. If you see a G in front of a C, you're going to pronounce the G sound. So it's eclipsing the next consonant. So if you see that written anywhere, I know we shouldn't have it in our lesson for a little while, and we'll do a specific lesson on it. But it is it happens in certain cases with certain prepositions, especially. So you'll eclipse that first consonant in that word with another consonant. And so like F would always, and they always get the same one. It's not going to change. So B will always get an M, C will always get a G, D will always get an N, and so forth. So I just wanted to introduce you all to that. And you can definitely look it over in the notes. But we haven't gotten to that in our lesson yet, but at least it'll be in your mind until then. So that's the pronunciations there. Okay. So did anyone have any questions on pronunciation? Were there any particular words that were hard for you in our previous lessons, in lesson 1 and 2, to pronounce? Let's see. Let me read through the comments just a second. Because I think we lost Molly. Okay, let's see. Bake up and tag. All right, so just reading through the comments there. Let me go back. We've got just a little bit of time, and I may be able to find some. Let me grab some of the previous lessons. Let's go back and look at lesson 1 and just take a look at and apply what we just looked at for pronunciation and apply that to this. So let me change over. All right. Gonna change over to the other handouts. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the vocab here. So I'm going to look on here. So when we go to look at this, let's take a look at Giaguit. So Giaguit, you may hear people say Giaguit or Giaguich, and that you may hear a slightly harder ch sound for some people. But let's take a look at it because it has three of the things we were talking about. So notice that Gia is the D with the J sound because it's next to an I. And then the next word is has a lenition, so it has the Chez vous, the H. So you have D-H there. Normally it would be dit. So dit means to you. But because it's after Gia, it has the H there. So DH becomes that G, that guttural G in the back, because it's next to a U. So all of these patterns are very, very regular, so much more regular than English. I see some people, get a little frustrated with Irish pronunciation, but really and truly, if you learn that, this plus this equals this sound, this plus this equals this sound, you're really going to 9 times out of 10 be able to pronounce a word you've never seen before. Whereas in English, it's not going to be 9 times out of 10. It's going to be much, much lower than that. So English is much more complex because the words come from everywhere and you really just have to memorize it. Whereas in Irish, you have this pattern you can rely on. So even in that first vocabulary section, and then we have Chuck. So we have the T next to an E. So slender. Is going to be that soft T with the ch sound, the CH sound tagged onto it. And then the CH sound at the end of that word is that guttural CH in the back of your throat. So, and then show, sh is the E is there to make the S, that sh sound. So remember, SH in Irish means huh, is pronounced an H. S with an E or an I after it or before it is a sh sound. So that's where the sh sound comes from in Irish. So sh, and then the O isn't accented, so most of the time you're going to hear it pronounced sh. So sh means this. And we see it in the next sentence. So unesha, unesha. So again, E fada is the A sound. And notice that which is the question form of the copula there, is not an or on. It's just un. So an unaccented A by itself is usually just a sound. It's a very short sound. So so unesha. And then we have duh. So duh and ma for your and my. And then we also had, let's see, let's go to a different one down here. And we had tarshtok. So ishtok, that has 3 of them. So that S there is surrounded on, that's another thing. Spelling is very regular too. So I wanted to comment on that. Notice how, look at the word ishtok. So you have IST, and you're always going to have another slender vowel come after that because the rule is slender with slender, broad with broad. So that's the regular spelling rule. So when you have 2 sides or 2 syllables to a word, 2 sides to a word, whatever vowel is on one side of a consonant, you're going to have the same type of vowel, whether it's slender or broad, on the other side of the consonant. So see, I-S-T-E. So it has to be an E or an I on that other side. And then you can add, ACH. So just a comment on spelling. So it's very, very regular. Let me see if I have another example of that. I don't think we have any more. Well, the word agat is going to have A-G-A-T. So it's got to have a broad vowel on either side of that G. So hopefully that helps. Trying to think. Okay. Let's go up and look at mura. So at the top there of the page, so it says G is muragwich. So mura, that I, they wanted that. The sound for the E, the for the E is on the end, but it has to have the I before that R. So on either side of that R, you've got slender vowels, because that's just how spelling works. Once they standardize the spelling for Irish, a lot of people may not like the standardization all the time, but one good thing is it did help with spelling. So, it's much more regular than English. Spelling in English, there's a reason they have spelling bees and people memorize tons and tons of words because it's very hard. There's nothing regular about English spelling, except for maybe some word patterns if they're similar in roots or where they come from. But Irish is much more regular. So hopefully that helps. I'm going to go ahead and cut it short here. Since we lost Molly, I know she may not be able to make an announcement about our next Zoom or try for the Zoom. We had a little bit of technological difficulty with the last one we tried, but we're going to aim for next week. So pay attention to the Facebook, pay attention to emails. I'll try to help her announce where that's going to be, when that's going to be, for the Zoom conversation practice. So this is just students getting together very casually. There's no pressure, but it's just to practice, introducing yourself or practice what your couple focal. So hopefully that helps, and I will see you all in the next lesson. Please be sure to be on the email list if you aren't already, and I'll send out all the links and everything for all the resources from this lesson again. So I'll send those in another email after this lesson. I'll also link them down below in the description for the video. So if you're not already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit the bell notification. You can also look at our upcoming streams and set reminders for you, and YouTube will remind you when we go live. So that may help you, especially if things get hectic, life gets busy, so you can still catch the live streams and participate with the chat. So next week, Leah will be back with us. We'll be back to our regular conversations, and we'll get to more of that. Tough out, all right. So have a good night. Slán go fóill.